Get ready to explore the darkest legends, from the eerie spirits of Indian folklore to of global tales. Are they really that different? Let's find out in this ultimate clash.
Today, we're exploring the mysterious beings of India's ancient traditions and their incredibly surprising global counterparts. You know, when we think of folklore, we usually picture European fairies, Japanese spirits, or maybe those classic vampires of Eastern Europe. But hidden deep within India's rich history are creatures that are just as fascinating and honestly hauntingly familiar. So it begs the question, is this all just mere coincidence? Have you ever wondered if it's just a fluke that a corpse spirit in India perfectly mirrors tales from medieval Europe? Or do these myths actually reveal universal, deeply ingrained patterns in human storytelling? Let's find out. Part 1. The Restless Dead. Let's begin our slow descent into the dark by looking at humanity's enduring fascination with death and that haunting possibility that something survives right beyond it. Imagine, for a moment, a creature of the cremation grounds. This is the Vetala, born straight from the ancient Sanskrit tales of King Vikramaditya. Now, this isn't some mindless, shuffling monster like a modern zombie. No, the Vetala is a cunning, highly conscious being. It inhabits corpses, sure, but it actually manipulates the living through pure wit, deep philosophy, and really complex riddles. It's almost like a philosopher that just happens to be dead. Yet this intelligent undead isn't alone in the world. It bears a striking, frankly eerie resemblance to the restless revenants of Slavic folklore and those grave-bound draugr of Nordic traditions. Across vast distances, completely distinct cultures independently dreamt up the dead refusing to stay buried, clinging fiercely to consciousness. Moving right along to Part 2, Nature's Dual Face. Stepping out of the graveyard and into the wild, untamed forests, we confront the absolute unpredictability of nature itself. It's a force capable of immense generosity, absolutely, but one that demands total, unwavering respect from anyone who wanders into it. In Indian mythology, this raw natural power is beautifully and terrifyingly embodied by the Yakshini. These are mystical female spirits guarding hidden sacred places. They're intimately tied to wealth and fertility, but they are deeply unpredictable. A Yakshini might bless an unsuspecting traveler with incredible abundance, or she might dangerously mislead them deep into the unforgiving woods. You just never really know.
मैं तुम्हारा बहुत लंबे समय से इंतजार कर रही हूँ.
Listen closely to those stories, and you'll hear distinct echoes of the Yakshini elsewhere. I'm talking about ancient Celtic and Slavic fairy lore. And we aren't talking about modern, tiny, glittery fairies here. We're talking about the ancient fair folk, beautiful, powerful forest spirits across Europe who could similarly bless or completely ruin humans, depending entirely on how they were treated. Nature, it seems, commands the exact same dual respect everywhere on Earth. Part 3. The Burden of Knowledge. We've looked at death, and we've looked at nature. But what about the horrors we bring upon ourselves? What happens when sheer hubris and a dangerous pursuit of power warp the human soul? Enter the Brahmarakshasa. This is one of India's absolutely most intriguing supernatural figures. It's a terrifying entity born not from ignorance, but from intellect. This is the cursed spirit of a highly learned scholar or maybe a priest whose unethical actions and misused knowledge in life resulted in a dark, incredibly powerful existence after death. There's a saying associated with this: wisdom without virtue can become destructive. Just let that sink in for a second. It is a chilling reminder that knowledge carries immense responsibility. And once again, we find global mirrors for this. It perfectly echoes European legends of cursed alchemists, ambitious magicians, and obsessed scholars whose boundless thirst for knowledge ultimately led straight to their ruin. Part 4, Grief and Injustice. Now we're walking into the darkest corners of the human heart. Here, we aren't dealing with playful tricksters or cursed scholars, but rather the crushing, suffocating weight of sorrow, betrayal, and wrongs left unrighting. Across South Asia, tales speak in hushed, frightened tones of the Churel. She's a ghostly female figure returning from the grave, deeply associated with tragedy and cruel betrayal. The Churel symbolizes the deep-seated collective fears of a society. Essentially, it's that terrifying thought that societal wrongs and unresolved injustices won't just fade away, they will physically return to confront the living. And you know what? This spectral grief is entirely, heartbreakingly universal. The Churel ties directly to the death-foretelling banshee of Ireland. She completely mirrors the weeping, eternally wandering La Llorona of Latin America. And she shares the sorrowful, intensely vengeful spirit of the Onryo in Japan. We're talking different continents, different names, but the exact same embodiment of unresolved grief. Part 5. Mischief in the Shadows. Now, sometimes the spirits aren't seeking vengeance at all. Sometimes folklore merely blurs the boundary between harmless, everyday mischief and genuine, unsettling peril. If we travel deep into the lush, atmospheric folklore of Kerala, we find the Chathan. These are incredibly mischievous supernatural beings capable of uncanny tricks and total deception. They're playful, but make no mistake, they are dangerous tricksters. In fact, these regional traditions were recently popularized in the haunting Malayalam film Brahmarakshasa starring Mammootty, which really brought this unsettling trickster energy right back to modern audiences. Their uncanny abilities to deceive perfectly mirror creatures from an entirely different part of the globe. They align beautifully with the household spirits and goblins that plagued medieval European folklore. It just goes to prove that a little bump in the night, a mysteriously misplaced object, or that weird shadow moving in the corner of your eye, that brand of mischief truly knows no borders. Part 6. The shared human psyche. So we really have to ask ourselves as we look at all these ancient mirrors, why? Why does a corpse spirit in India resemble a European revenant? Why do Yakshinis act exactly like ancient fairies? Well, researchers actually believe that rather than proving a single origin point for all these myths, these legends developed completely independently. Isolated civilizations were just trying to answer the exact same timeless questions and confront the exact same fundamental human fears. We're talking about the absolute finality of death, the bitter sting of betrayal, the vastness of the wild, isolation, and of course, the terrifying unknown. To quote the experts, folklore becomes a language through which societies express these anxieties. Whether we view these Indian spirits and global ghosts as actual history, symbolic warnings, or honestly just campfire entertainment, these stories weave a vast global tapestry. They act as a shared universal language for our deepest, unspoken anxieties. Perhaps the greatest mystery of this explainer is not whether these terrifying, beautiful beings ever actually existed in the shadows. No. The real mystery, the one that should really leave you thinking tonight, is why humanity, in every single corner of the world, century after century, just can't stop telling stories about them. Thank you so much for walking through the shadows with me.